Welcome, everybody. People are starting to dribble in here, so we will get started. And we are at Well Published, MFA Lawyers interview series, where we talk about all aspects of getting well published. I am your host, Aimee Liu, and my guest today is my dear friend, the literary agent, Kimberley Cameron. We are
Hello.
going to be talking about agents today. So, just to introduce Kimberley, she is the president of Kimberley Cameron and Associates and has been a literary agent for almost 30 years, about as long as we've known each other.
And counting, yeah.
Yes. She represents both fiction and nonfiction manuscripts, with the exception of romance, children's books, and screenplays. Her clients include Audrey Lee, Douglas Keane, Brian Copeland, Rosalind Brackenberry, and many others. She also loves to launch debut authors, so listen in. Kimberley is based in Tiburon, California, and Paris.
Well, I used to have an apartment in Paris, but I do spend time in France, but now we go to the south of France.
Okay, all right. So she's based in Tiburon then.
That's
works
right.
alongside 5 other agents who have their own lists at her agency. Kimberley, I'm so thrilled to have you here to be doing this interview, and I love seeing you. And welcome to Substack.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here with you, Aimee. I see your name all the time, and I read your essays and what you have online, and I always think it's very erudite and appropriate. So it's really nice to be here as a guest.
Thank you. I know that lots of people are trying to get agents and want to understand about the whole agent business. So it's definitely a hot topic, and we are delighted to have you here. Just a quick note for everybody that this conversation is being recorded. I'll post the video with a recap on Saturday morning. And also for paid subscribers of MFA Lore, this Saturday is our laureate Zoom gathering, and we will be sort of debriefing on this and talking about more about agents just among ourselves. So if you're a paid subscriber, I hope you will join us. Today, we're going to cover a mix of questions about the reality of today's publishing world and for agents and authors. And I'll be asking some questions from subscribers. I have this set up so I can see this chat. And so if you put questions in there for Kimberley, I will try and get to them. We have a lot. Portia asked, is there a transcript? Yes, there is a transcript on every video that's posted on Substack. And I also will offer a summary of the main takeaways from today as well. So much to discuss. Let's start with your personal preferences. What do you personally most love to read?
Well, I read manuscripts all the time. I mean, that's just the life of a literary agent. That's what, you can ask my husband. That's all. I always have homework. If I read for pleasure, it's very rare. We went to the south of France a couple of weeks ago, and I read Kermit Lynch's book, which is really about wine and France and food. And that was kind of like a real special day for me. I was around the pool and I actually read a book. But I was just reading the Asian rabbi's book. She just her name is, I had it down here, Angela Bookdahl. She's the rabbi in New York, and it's her kind of memoir of how she got to be a rabbi coming from an Asian family, and it was very interesting to me. So I picked that up, and I'm looking at that. I like historical fiction a lot because I read a lot of that because I really like learning about history in a fiction sort of setting. So I read a lot of that. I have a lot of historical fiction authors.
So then, do you tend to represent books in the genres that you most love to read, or do you pick the genres and the types of books based more on the marketplace?
I don't pick anything on the marketplace because the marketplace changes so rapidly, as we know, and it's 2 years to get to a contract with any publisher. I really have had in my past agenting so many mysteries and thrillers just because the writing for me was very intelligent. I like solving puzzles. I think that it's really that's where I kind of just went to in the beginning. I mean, I read a lot of Buddhism. I read a lot of things trying to be wise in my life, but I've sold a couple of those, but they don't come to me that often. So it just kind of you have to kind of go where the writing grabs you, and it really does have to grab me, which we can talk about a little bit
Yeah.
more.
And I mean, just basically, you are open to submissions at this time.
I'm actually taking a little step back right now
Okay.
because I've got some things going on with health problems in my family. But I do encourage all my agents are making deals, and we are definitely always looking. I'm really working right now by referrals mostly. I have a lot of editors referring. I just did take on a debut author with her first book that was listed on Blacklist, and it just became there was just so much interest. I had 24 hours to read it. I actually read that in the south of France too. Just one day, I just had to read it, and I really thought it was very well done. So I did sign a new debut author because of that. But I'm not, I got to the point, Aimee, where I wasn't getting back to writers quickly enough. And they would sit in, just because of life.
Yeah.
So they would just sit there, and I was feeling guilty about it a lot. And Dorian, my lovely associate and office manager, just said, "You got to stop submissions for a while. You just do." And it was like really very foreign to me. It's like, are you kidding me? I've never done that in my life. But it was the right move at the right time. So unfortunately, I'm not reading queries very much, but my agents are, and they're all looking. So we're very active, and I'll just put it
So, a
there.
couple of questions on that then. If somebody were going to your agency, they should look onto your website and look down the list of agents and see who has the best fit for what they're doing.
Yes, everybody's on my website. It's really, we tried to make it as author friendly as possible. And, everybody closes at some point because they get, I think one of my agents told me they got, 1,000 in a day. So then they have to read those and get back to people. So, don't get discouraged, I would say, if you see that somebody's not currently open to submissions. Check back at the first of every month and just see if they're open again, because they do close and they do open. Right now, I'm closed just to submissions, as I said, but maybe someone will refer somebody to me, and then I would take a look.
So, on that note, you just mentioned about editors taking.
Mhm.
Speak to that a little bit. Who are these editors? How does that pipeline work?
Well, I've had a pretty long pipeline of 30 years of a lot of editors. A lot of my comrade editors have left the business and become agents and retired and done all sorts of things. But the ones that are still working, and I'm constantly sending my clients out to all the editors and all the houses. And
So, you're
so,
talking about editors and publishing houses, not independent
yes.
editors.
Well, I get those too. I do get those too. And I mean, right now, personally, I'm not taking on new writers right this second because it takes so much for an agent to really groom a writer and get them ready to go out. So somebody has to be kind of more towards publication for me right now. And this author I just signed they'd already signed her and she just had no agent.
Mm,
So, but it
okay.
was like, and I don't have any financial situation with that first book, but the writing was so compelling that I knew her second book was going to be good.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so you are really investing in the career. It's not just a one-shot book every time.
Well, I have a client that I have 29 books with. I mean, that's been a long time. And in fact, several clients that I've have that kind of history with. And those are the best clients because, they stick with you and you go through thick and thin and all sorts of changes in the industry as we've seen and experienced. And, those ones that stick around for a long time, we just have, it's like a marriage. We really care about each other and
Mhm.
all that. So it's It's fun.
That's an ideal
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's be honest. This is the nitty gritty. If a manuscript doesn't grab you in the first few paragraphs, how many pages will you keep reading?
Sorry. I hate to say it, but we look at voice all the time, Aimee. We're looking for somebody who can gain our interest and is accomplished and has done the rewriting. Writing is rewriting. What the work takes to get it to be in a place where it's ready for the market. Okay, I'll put it that way. So when it's really there, it just shines above all the ones that aren't yet ready. I'm not saying something's bad. I'm just saying they're not yet ready. And the authors that go to conferences, I still do the book passage conference. I'm going to go to Left Coast Crime in February because it's in San Francisco. Those people that keep going and working and honing their craft are the ones that get representation. It's just the way it works.
That's tough. So that
Yeah.
it is those first few paragraphs that are make or break every time.
They're either accomplished or not. They just know what they're doing. They're telling a story in a way that engages the reader. It's interesting, it's unique, it's different than what you read every minute. And I wish I could wave a magic wand and say, "Oh, here, everybody is, ready," but they're not. And so you have to really be discerning because it's our time. I mean, we don't get paid. We do not make any money until we sell the project.
And it doesn't, it doesn't work to say it gets really good at the end of its third.
No, I'm working on a project now that I tried to sell 12 years ago at least, and it never left me. I think this is a really good project, but it was it was just too long for the market. And so we never sold it. And now they put it into 2 books, and I'm struggling with how to make that work. But I came back to it and I said, okay, I'm going to read this again. And I was just hooked by it. It's really an amazing thing that happens and you don't forget. You do not forget great writing. An agent reads a lot, but the ones that stick with you are the ones that you want to work on.
Yeah, I have a friend who she wrote a book like 25 years ago, and the agent never forgot it. And the moment became right, and the book was published 25 years after it was originally submitted, which is just
music to my ears. Yeah, no, it does happen like that. It really does. I put things sometimes on a back burner if they don't sell, and then we pull them out at a time that it might be a better fit for the time that's going on. So
I assume, like most agents, you are trying your damnedest to sell to the big 5 publishers. But if that doesn't work, will you go to the smaller presses? And how does that? I have a friend who his agent has just sold 2 books of his to Open Road, which and sold is a kind of like, I don't think there's any money that changes hands, but somehow it seems to be worth her while. And how do you feel about that whole realm?
Well, yes, we do go to the big 5 and try and get a really good editor that we have a lot. But they're under the gun. There's so many more agents now, Aimee, than there used to be. I mean, when I started and got into the AAR, which was really hard because you had to sell like 11 books in 8 months or something like that. I mean, I really worked hard to get into that. There were like 90 agents. And now the AALA, there's 1,500. So and a lot of them are editors, and a lot of them know what they're doing. And so it's the editors that are at the houses, the big 5 especially, are just inundated with manuscripts.
Yeah.
So mine really has to stand out. But, it's always timing. It's always, the universe lining up when a manuscript just gets published and it's ready and all that. And I've had the big 5s, I know what that takes. But at the same time, I am so happy to be working with smaller publishers that are there to catch the writers that the big 5s just can't take on because it's too risky. So I work with a lot of small publishers, and there isn't a lot of money in it, but I think most writers know, and if you don't, you better know this now, that you're in publishing for the writing and to get published, and it's not about the money. It's never been about the money. Sure, we all want to make money, and I got a couple of nice checks today, and I was like, yes, I don't have to worry. But at the same time, I really work hard with authors with for sometimes no money just to get them published. And then they can take off and they can do very well or not. But, it's kind of like I'm a good agent because I'm stubborn. And if I believe in something, it's like, no, I really think that this is really good. And I'm going to find somebody, even if I have to look under a rock, to find a publisher for this thing. And it's taken me sometimes, like I said, 7 years, 10 years, more sometimes.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
So a related question from my good friend, Georgia Jeffries, she published a book with a small press last year, and she held back the subsidiary rights for things like translations and movies and, television and all that kind of stuff. And now she's not really sure what to do with the subsidiary rights on her own. So she's wondering, do agents ever take on a client just to handle subsidiary rights? Is that something
that's not usually done unless they've sold 200,000 copies, and we know that there's some subsidiary rights to be sold. We have other co-agents that we work with. I work with Whitney Lee for foreign rights. I work with different entertainment agencies. So we really have to have some sort of financial kind of investment in something to try and get that working for us, or it just isn't worth our time, really.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the process of what an agent does, what you do. Obviously, selling the book is a big part of your work. Does it end there, or do you keep going with a project through the editorial, the production, the marketing, shepherd it all the way through? And how much input do you have as an agent on those latter stages of the process?
Well, let's start at the beginning stages. I mean, I edit like crazy. I don't go out with something until I feel I've gone over it maybe once, maybe 3 times, and that's really ready to roll, as do all my agents. We're really very hands-on in getting that manuscript the best it can be before we show it. Because, it's our reputation too. We don't want to waste editors' times. They're already inundated, like I said. So it's important that we really do that and do it well. So that's sometimes, it'll take a year or 2 before we get something out, that we've been working on. So that's all free. Really, it's an investment. And then when we go out with it, we go out with a lot of it to a lot of people, hand selected very carefully of who we think is the good fit. I spend so much of my day reading the deals because I'm trying to figure out who's the best editor for different projects. And so, we're always kind of really doing research on that. That's a lot of my day. And then we read at night. And then once we get something sold, we go over the contract like crazy and make sure that we're getting everything we think we should get. Sometimes we use outside lawyers to look at it. Depends on the size of the contract. With the big 5, we usually use an outside counsel because they know exactly what's going on with all the contracts and what they can get and what we can get. So I think that that's kind of a good use of our money and time to make sure that we really know that contract is the best we can get for our clients. And subsidiary rights is part of that too, whether we feel like we really need to wrestle those back and feel like we can do it, or if we feel the publisher is well situated so they can do it better than we could. So, it's kind of you call it, and every situation is unique. But then, we do cover consultation with the author. If they're unhappy with something, we're the referee. We try to make everybody happy. We have to make our editors happy. We have to make our clients happy. And they're both very important to us. Clients probably first, unless they're being unreasonable. If they're being unreasonable, that's different. But, usually we really want to make our clients happy and make sure that they're happy. And a lot of it is communication issues and stuff like that. So, we become, like I said, the referees, and that keeps going. And then, we see things come out, and then we go to the next book, and it's just building a career, really, as and giving advice all along the way.
So it seems like a contradiction that the book has to be perfect coming in the door, grab you, really resound, and yet at the same time you do all this editorial work. So can you explain to me how that goes? Because I think authors have this sense, and I kind of try and get them to think this way, that the book is ready to go to the publisher as soon as they submit it to the agent.
Yeah.
And yet there's more work
Well,
that needs to be done. So talk
that
us through that.
that I will say that is variable. I have clients that write so cleanly and the book is ready to go, and I don't do one thing. Okay, that's pretty rare. Maybe I'll find a typo, maybe I'll find this, but when the writing is really clean and ready to go, I don't want to fuss with it. you know. But when I see that something could just isn't said quite the right way, I mean, I don't tear things apart and have them rewrite the whole book. I never do that. I'm just talking about little fixes or something that could be said a little bit better, or if something's not clear to the reader, to me as I'm reading, I need it to be clear to the editor. So I want to make sure that we go in knowing all those things are the best they can be. But we don't just like get something we think is really good and then tear it apart. We never do that. We're hands on but gently. We wear gloves. I'll put it that way.
So what is it that's grabbing you most usually? Is it the voice? Is it the story? Is it the plot turns? Is
It's
it
kind of all of it in one package. I mean, when we get a project that is really speaking to us on lots of levels, then you know that this thing is closer to being ready to go than anything else. So it's not one thing. It could be a stronger voice in one piece. It could be the way they describe scenery, and that the scenery becomes a character in the thing. And there's so many genres: literary, historical, all those different things. They just seem to come together well when I keep reading. You know,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just kind
got
of
it.
all I can say about that.
So I know that in other group agencies, everybody in the agency reads the work before they decide to take it on. Is that how it works in your agency, or who
No, not at all.
actually ends up? Each individual agent makes totally their own call.
Pretty much, because all my agents started as interns with this agency, and they were trained and they knew exactly once they got to the point where I just knew they knew what they were doing and they wanted to be an agent. That's just what happened this time with these this group I have. I trust them completely. So I know that their taste is good, and they're gonna and we're pretty successful. So we're doing fine. They're
Do you
doing
have
fine.
readers who read the work before it gets to your desk?
No, not anymore. I used to. They were all my interns. They were all that. But now they have their own lists. So that's why I've had to step back a little bit, because I can't actively do all of
Right.
it and service my clients, because they keep writing and I have new things to read from them. So but that's why it's so wonderful to have, younger talent in my agency, that they're all hungrier and looking for new things, and I can help them along the way and oversee things, but they're on their own pretty much.
Great. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about publishing and some of the big topics. Let's start with money. I last year I just finished ghostwriting a big book that we got a lot of money for with one of the big fives. And for the first time in my career, I've never seen anything like this. We're getting the payment in 5 installments over 4 years. I've never seen it. It used to be you got paid when in the beginning, you got paid when you delivered, you got paid when the book was published, and maybe you got paid something else when the paperback came out. This time, there's another payment 2 years after publication. It's just
Yeah.
crazy. Are you seeing changes like that?
I'm seeing all sorts of changes. It's changed a lot, the business, in 30 years, I have to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the painful side of it. I think, When a publisher signs an author, they're taking a big risk. They really are. They're going to put a lot of money into a book and the development of it. And if they can extend those payments as long as they possibly can, it's just going to help them afford to pay a writer as much as the writer wants and the agent wants. So, I mean, I understand it from both ends. I mean, I try not to have those kinds of payments, but when if you got a lot of money, I mean, that's kind of a protective thing for the publisher. I'd say that.
Yeah. Are you seeing any changes in what the advances are specifically now? Or, there's been this split of the bottom is dropping lower and lower and the ceiling is raising higher and higher. Is that still happening?
I'm seeing that for sure. I think that, there's auctions going on with lots of money. And then there's, like the mid list, which doesn't really exist anymore. I just don't think it does. I mean, it does, but those authors that just, we just have to earn out what we get. And what we get is less than we used to, for sure. I think they've gone down, the advances have gone down for those kinds of writers. So, unless you've got an auction going or a lot of interest from a house, big monies, are hard to find.
In the old days, it used to be that publishers would publish talent, and they would kind of spend some time in the mid list before they had their big breakout books. Now it seems like those same authors are having to get published by indie and small presses. And it used to be that there was kind of a curse on that you were looked at askance if your books had been published by smaller presses first, especially if they weren't, some of the more acclaimed small presses. Has that changed? I mean, is it now more common in the big five to take on work that has come out of the little leagues of small presses?
It does happen. It definitely does happen. The problem is too is in the bookstores, there's a lot less bookstores than there used to be. The shelf life is shorter. The returns start coming in, and it's very difficult for any author to get attention. Especially when you have a smaller press. But you know what? I really believe that an author really needs to take on the responsibility now for PR and things like that on their own. They have to be part of that team. The publisher just can't do it all like they used to. It used to be I'd just sit back and that's what they do. Now I really pay attention to good publicists and I recommend them, and it's a bit of an investment on their part. But if the smaller publisher doesn't have the funds to invest, you have to augment that. So I see that a lot with some of my writers too.
Okay, so this is getting down in the reads, but I'm thinking about it because I was just in on our big rollout call the other day, and they talked about all of the sort of behind the scenes work that can now be done with Amazon and rankings and Amazon ads and all of that. And when my novel came out, I did try and stick my toe in that and figure out how that all worked, and I failed miserably. I wasted a lot of my own money trying to figure out how to game that system. And clearly, it seems to me that this is one of the big advantages that the big fives do bring to books, is that they know how to get into the algorithms and how to manipulate and what to pay for and all of that. And I'm wondering if you are with a small press and you have your own publicist and you are sort of doing it yourself, is there any way to get around that screen? Are there people who you can hire to help game the Amazon numbers and do all of that stuff, or are you just screwed?
No, I think that there are people out there to help with that, and that's a good publicist too. They know pretty much how to play that game, that they have to be a good publicist, I think. And also, I think that, everybody knows that, if you can just get reviewed by so many people on Amazon, it helps with your rankings. You just have to get people that just see if you can get those reviews up there. I mean, that's a problem that I think a lot of authors have, is just getting the attention on Amazon. That's part of it. But, I mean, as an agent, that's a whole different world. And so I just don't have time to do that. So as an agent, I can't really help with that. But I can recommend people and try and see if we can get that ball rolling.
Yeah, I know it's a real curse now.
Yeah.
Um, then the other issue, back to what is getting sold, has to do with the long, almost ridiculous pipeline of publishing that it takes. Sometimes at least 9 months, and some often 2 years to before the book. From the time a book is actually accepted, the manuscript is accepted, to the time it's um, in print and going out. And in today's world, politically, economically, everything, it is just nuts out there. I mean, I don't know how anybody predicts what kind of a world the book is going to come out into in 2 years. Are you seeing that affecting what editors are selecting or what publishers are selecting? Are they either elevating certain types of books or avoiding books that are maybe too diverse or have, you know, I don't know what different kinds of topics. Won't go into
Well,
specifics, but I just can't help but wonder if this political climate isn't affecting the
of course it
decisions that.
is. It's affecting everything. I mean, I call it the age of uncertainty right now. And it's kind of like walking on eggshells. We just don't know quite where this country is going right now.
Yeah.
And with, as you put in some of your questions about book bans and things like that, I mean, it's just very tricky. I will say diversity is huge. I mean, the more diverse your characters, the more interesting they are, the more people can learn about people they don't know about, be it trans, be it, you know, vampire trans. I see these kinds of deals. It's like, wow, I mean, it's just exploded that way. And so I think, from what I see being published and the deals I see being made, romantasy is huge. There's a thirst for sort of a fantasy, a kind of environment that takes you away from the present reality. And so I think that that's why romantasy and fantasy has been so big, and horror is big too. And I think people are just kind of trying to escape a little bit, and I think that that's why these genres are doing so well right now. But I'm also seeing literary fiction very much. I'm seeing a lot of new voices that are very unrepresented before, and that's really a good trend in publishing, I think. And so I think what I want everybody to come away with from this is that it's not gloom and doom. I think publishing is really healthy right now, even though it's an uncertain world. I do think that. But I think at the same time, thank God for those librarians and the people and the bookstores, the independent bookstore owners that really champion the writer and do everything they can to keep those books in the pipeline and keep them going. And, I mean, I know here at Book Passage, Elaine Petrocelli has things going on every day. And I do a lot of conferences there because it's just so interesting of what she does and has kept that book even through, COVID. I mean, we've been through a bit of a shell shock time. So
A lot.
I think publishing is always going to survive. There's more books being published every day. I mean, I can't believe how many I saw that there were, I think, 37 fiction titles yesterday and about 27 nonfiction titles. And that's in one day here. So, I think that people are reading more, but they're reading on their screens. That could be a problem, but we're trying to all figure that out. Publishing has always survived. I think publishing is always able to kind of figure out how to best get the reader. That's what they're trying to do, and I think that it's a healthy industry. I do. So I want writers to know that it's a noble profession. We know that. I've always called it that. And I love it. And I couldn't imagine my time on earth doing anything else by trying to champion writers that I believe in. So I think that, if you feel that really drive to write, just keep going and keep going to conferences and keep working on your craft and be smart about who you're sending your work to, like the right agent that's not going to just, this isn't even my genre. I mean, it's a business for us. We don't have a lot of time. So all those query letters are really important, that it's our kind of taste. And that's why we try to do the same things for editors as agents. We don't want to give them something they're not interested in.
Right, right.
So,
Um, you mentioned book bans, and obviously librarians and independent booksellers are the great heroes of,
they are.
supporting books through, despite book bans, and teachers who are dare to stand up to the banners. But I always wonder where the publishers are in this whole issue of censorship. I mean, 7,000 books were banned across 23 states last year. And I guess Stephen King and Jodi Picoult are the two most censored authors in America. And they're also, of course, incredibly popular. So, are publishers doing anything to address or come back to this that you see? And B, at the end of the day, are book bans good or bad for books? I mean, it's kind of like a mix sometimes, it seems.
I suppose there can be kind of a rebound effect. If something's banned, you want to read it anyway. That's certainly been through history that happens. I think publishers are trying to deal with that. And I think that, in this uncertain time, I think it's a transitory thing, and I don't think it'll be forever. And I think that, the right kind of thinking will rule out. And I think that books are always going to be around. And I think publishers are doing the best they can, really. That's the answer I have for that.
Yeah, I hope so. The other big factor in the screen we're looking at is AI.
Yeah.
And I see it everywhere. I mean, I see it in on Substack. I see some of it creeping into Substack. I see it in much more so. I'm also on Medium, and I see a lot of AI generated comments that people are throwing on there. So they're not only generating the post, they're generating the comments, and it's so I just feel like its tentacles are creeping into every aspect of what we're doing. And I I use it for research, and I use it for, some sort of donkey work. I had a ton of um, footnotes in the last book that I did, and I have to say AI was a godsend for doing the footnotes.
Yeah. No,
It
it's a
was really
wonderful
great,
tool. I
a
think
great
that's,
tool. But
yeah, it's a great tool for research for everyone, I think. I've been seeing a lot of letters coming to my authors, and they are so AI driven, it's ridiculous. And, my son actually had to teach me how to recognize AI with all these superlative adjectives about somebody's work. I mean,
Mhm.
I got one, I had an author who put their manuscript very carefully through ChatGPT. And then he put the agency. Oh, Kimberley Cameron is perfect for that. She sold this and that, and she's done this and that. It was like, whoa, so I've seen it firsthand coming back at me, but now I recognize it. And so when I get, or my authors tell me, oh, I just got this, I think this might be a great publicist for my book. And I know exactly that it's AI generated. I can just tell. So I'm kind of now an old hand at it, but I think one has to really question something if it's too good to be true. Okay. If they're going to be so complimentary about your work, that's your first red flag, you know?
Yeah. But what about AI generated books? What about, when it creeps in, when it starts to get so good that it's harder to tell, and it starts, people either they lean into it or they completely rely on it? I mean, are there, again, it's like the whole publishing industry seems to need desperately to have systems set up to manage this.
Yeah, and the Authors Guild, everybody's trying,
Mm.
Publishers Week, everybody is trying to combat that in the industry, including publishers. So I think that this is a time where it's just going to get worse before it gets better, and it'll be tamer. And I think that there'll be limits on what people can do. But right now we're in a brave new world with AI, and I think it's going to be a time of learning how to decipher what's AI and what's not. I don't think from all my authors that I talk to, and I talk to them regularly, that they say they can recognize an AI book like that. They just said it's not very good and it's just not a true voice. And you can recognize that pretty much. So I don't think AI books are going to be successful in the marketplace because they're not going to be very good. They can't take on the nuances that a human being can with a heart.
Well, and you make a great point about not using AI in your correspondence,
Right,
especially with agents and people who matter to your career. I mean, that is a
right.
very bad thing. I had an unbelievable experience the other day with AI where I use it sometimes to summarize these videos because it's very quick and it'll
Mhm.
pull out the takeaways. And generally, Claude is pretty good. But I wanted to get deeper into one particular aspect of the conversation that I'd had. So I asked a specific question about that part of the conversation, and it made up a whole story about I don't know where it came from. I mean, it was unbelievable. I actually responded to I said, "Claude, this is bullshit. What are you doing? Why are you
Yeah.
giving me this garbage? This has nothing." And it apologized that, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I will pay more closer attention next."
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Unbelievable. But if I hadn't caught it, I might have done something with that, which was completely out of nowhere. I have no idea.
right.
It was just like a fifth grade kid who BS their way through a classroom assignment.
Well, I have an author that is absolutely finding that when he's doing research, that sometimes AI will just start writing the book. And that's why he just has to tame it. You have to give it limits, but it's learning all the time. Don't forget that. So, I mean, the only thing that scares me is going to get so smart at some point, but it's not now. It's not now. And as a tool, it's a really good resource, especially for historical things. And, I mean, I use it even for medical things, to look
Mhm,
things up.
sure.
And it combs, the Mayo Clinic and stuff, and it's really a good. But write from your heart and don't rely on it too much. Is my advice would.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, we're up at about 45 minutes, so I think maybe we'll close down. I don't see one last question. Do you accept memoirs? And are memoirs still a big deal in
Yeah.
publishing as they used to be?
Yeah, memoirs are a big deal. Especially if you've got a celebrity or somebody that everybody's curious about or some new thing. But, I mean, people's memoirs are being written. They're really voice driven, I think. Memoirs have to be really voice driven and have a lot of literary merit for them to rise above the other memoirs that people are just throwing out. I've done a couple of memoirs and but the ones I've done, well, no, I've actually done some that weren't celebrities too. But it's a crowded field, but all the genres are crowded fields. What you need to do, I will tell you, is like I said, keep working on your craft and believe in it and believe in yourself and don't let anybody tell you no until you feel that either you shouldn't be doing this or that you're really getting it. So it's possible to get published. It's possible to get an agent who really loves your work. It takes work. It takes work, a lot of homework, and just a relentlessness of saying, I'm not taking no for an answer. And I do that with editors and publishers all the time. I said, well, that didn't work. Okay, back to the drawing board. But then I find a way to make it work, like everything else.
Love is a big part of this. And I think,
Yeah,
as you say, it starts with loving your own work and getting it to a point where you truly love it. Because if you're asking your agent to love it and an editor to love it and book buyers to love it, that love begins with your own relationship with your work. So,
it's true. It's true. But if you have something to say, you know, it needs to get out in the world, and there are people to help you facilitate that. we're all working really hard. Agents work really hard. They do. And out of labor of love, really. The money, if it comes, that's great. It's a great bonus. And that helps and makes you feel worthwhile and all that. But it really comes down to loving what we do, and we do. Most agents I know do. So
Yeah, I agree. Agreed. My experience as well. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much. This
you
has
are so
been a
welcome.
rich conversation. And those of you who are paid subscribers to MFA Lore, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday for our laureate Zoom call, and we will continue this conversation about agents in general. And this video will be posted on Saturday morning, bright and early. So again, thank you, Kimberly. Thank you,
Thank
everybody
you for
who's
hosting. All right, love.
my pleasure.
Thanks for asking.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.